All right, rule number 1. If you're wearing a dress or a skirt, unless you absolutely had to, like that was no choice you had, don't go commando. Now, when I was a wee little girl and I was attending my second con, I wore a skirt. I wore tights under that skirt, but like, you know, the lace tights that you could kind of see through and stuff. And I didn't wear anything other than that. And I fell in the hallway on purpose. I was being dramatic. My friend and I were both going as Misa Amane, which makes sense because we were both like 14 or something. That's like starter cosplay is just, oh, I'm gonna buy a Lolita dress and go as Misa Amane from Death Note. Yeah, anyways, I was in my little goth dress and whatever, and I actually have pictures to show you if you want. So we were playing around in the hallway, and I made death notes for both of us. And so she was pretending to use her death note on me, and I like died, and then I fell dramatically in the hallway, and then my skirt went up, and I jumped up real quick and covered myself again and kept going, but not before flashing people. But honestly, it wasn't a big deal because I had underwear on, I had tights on underneath that, so the chances of anybody actually seeing anything were very slim. On top of that, like, most people in the convention world and the cosplay world, like, we've all seen butts, right? It's really not a big deal. But at the time, I was 14, I was very modest, and I was like, oh no, I'm horrified, I'm embarrassed. The next year, I went as Yuri Nakamura from Angel Beats. So it was like a school uniform, it had a skirt, alright, and I had like knee-high socks on, so not tights. And I didn't learn my lesson, I guess. Whatever. And this time I actually did just have like panties on underneath. My friend and I were in the food court. What was that the same year? I don't know. My friend and I were in the food court, just eating our lunch, and this L cosplayer, L from Death Note, do you see a pattern? L from Death Note came over and he's like,
hey, can I get a picture?
And I was like, yeah, sure. And so like we stopped what we were doing, and he made my friend hold the camera, and he was like,
I want to get a picture with you.
And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And so we started just like kind of like side hugging for the picture, right? And then he's like,
no, can I get a picture where I'm holding you?
And I was like, what? And he wanted to pick me up bridal style and hold me for the picture, and I let him because I was having the time of my life, and I was like, sure, why not? But it was like a little creepy, and like maybe I shouldn't have let him pick me up bridal style, but whatever. I had my skirt and like my panties, and my skirt was semi-short to begin with, and so he picked me up, and my legs are like this, right? And I tried to like put my skirt to hold, but it just completely fell open. And there were like two normal civilian ladies having their lunch right in line of sight of my down under. And they're just sitting there at their table, eating their salads or whatever. And it's just like, this is how people eat, by the way. Just eating their lunch, and I flashed them for a second. Or is it called flashing? When you show your family jewels to someone? Like, the first time it was fine. Oh, I tripped in the hallway. My skirt went up and I had tights on, like no big deal. But this one was a little extra. So now I always wear something under my skirts. Alright, so story time. I think it was my second convention. Yeah, it was my second convention. So it was my friend, my brother, and I. And my brother is a lot older than me. So he was like the adult during the con. He was like our chaperone and everything. And drove us there and paid for the hotel room and all that stuff. Thank you, big brother. And we were like, ooh, we want to have a rave. Why is this so... Ooh. We wanted to have like a rave or a party in our hotel room, And so he was like, ooh, let's buy a strobe light and let's buy a fog machine and stuff. So we did. We bought it at Party City and then we took it to the con. And so we got up to our room and we were up there for not even like 10 minutes. And we decided to turn the fog machine on just to give it a test. And after like 1 minute of being on in that tiny little like cooped up area, it got really foggy. And it wasn't ground fog, like we didn't buy the correct fog for ground fog, so it was just kind of everywhere. And so my brother's like, oh, okay, that's enough, turn it off. It works. And then a few minutes later, the alarm goes off. The fire alarm goes off. And so I'm freaking out because I'm like 13 years old. I've never done one wrong thing in my life, like at all, ever. Nothing. And then the fire alarm goes off, and so I'm freaking out, like, oh no, we're gonna get in so much trouble, what do we do? And my brother's just sitting there, like, laughing in the chair, not moving. And then hotel, or like maintenance and security comes up to the room, and they're like,
What's going on?
And then you see this police officer run up behind them, and he's like,
Oh yeah, we got something good, what's going on?
and they were like,
It's a fog machine.
he said,
Oh.
and then just like walked away. He's like, that's not worth my time, never mind. He probably thought we were doing the marijuanas. So maintenance came and like all these people, and they couldn't turn it off. Floor fire alarm went off just for that floor, and so everybody in the hallway and whatever, and everybody's having to evacuate. Or I don't know if it even works this way in like all hotels or what. But like if an alarm has been going off for 10 minutes, then like other alarms on the floors above and below it start going off. And they started evacuating the floors. We evacuated 3 floors with our fog machine because we decided we wanted to have a party in the hotel room. The hotel staff was really mad and they confiscated our fog machine, and they're like, you can't have this anymore. You can get it back when you check out. Which is like rightfully so. That makes sense. We had some other friends who were attending the convention, and they weren't necessarily like with us or staying with us. So they came up and visited us in our hotel room before all of this happened. Kind of sat and chatted for a while, and then they left. And then so right after they left was when we tried the fog machine. And so they forgot something in our room, like, I don't know, some artwork they bought or whatever. They forgot their stuff. And so they turned around to come back up to our room, and that's when all this was happening. So they got off the elevator, and my friend said it was like a scene from Left 4 Dead. Because he said, like, the fire alarms were going off, like, no one was around. The hallway was, like, a little foggy, and it was just, like, a really creepy scene. He's like,
What the heck happened in the 2 minutes that we've been gone?
I was like, we're getting in so much trouble, I was shaking and afraid, and I was like, great, the weekend's
Ruined.
I was worried we were going to get fined or something for, setting off a fire alarm, but it was good. The only thing we got let off with was a warning, and we got our fog machine confiscated. I don't think we ever got it back. Oh, there was also another year. This was like only a couple years ago, and we had really noisy neighbors next door. And like the first night, like they were cool. Like we were in our hotel room getting dressed and ready in our cosplay and whatever. And they came over and they're like,
Hey, do you want to party with us?
and we're like, no, thanks, it's okay. Thank you for the invite. And so the whole weekend, they were being like noisy and obnoxious. Like not even like, oh, cute, they're having fun, but they were being obnoxious. And there were always these people coming like in and out of the hotel room and stuff. And so, like, I don't know why. Thinking back on it now, I'm like, ooh, that's really juvenile. We were trying to prank them. And so we had craft singles. You always have con food. That year that I'm talking about right now, the story, we had craft singles, like a packet of cheese, a giant, like, foot-long sandwich from Walmart. And peanut butter and jelly. Like, that was our food for the weekend. So we were sticking craft singles to their door. Again, I don't know why. We were like, oh yeah, this is funny. We're gonna get back at them for being obnoxious. And we just stuck cheese to their door. We also were able to slide one underneath the door. Like, just a packaged one, not an empty one, but a packaged one. There was, like, the slightest little gap. And we actually heard somebody, they were like, whose whose cheese is this? And then another night, we decided to up our game, right? Because this is like day 2 of the con, so we're feeling extra wild. I can't remember how we did it. I think it was tape. Yeah, that's right. That's what we did. We taped the sandwich to their door because we thought, oh, this is funny. This is gonna accomplish something. Someone came and knocked on our door, and they were like,
Hey, did you leave a sandwich on our door?
and we were like,
What?
and they're like, yeah, like,
I don't know. We thought maybe it was you guys. Somebody left a sandwich on our door.
and we were like, whoa, that's crazy. What are you talking about? That's kind of funny. That's hilarious. And they were like,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's whatever. It was just kind of weird. I don't know. We're just trying to figure out who did it. But thanks.
and then they left, and they were like so polite and so nice. And we're just being these obnoxious children, which is dumb because I was probably like 20 at the time, which is way too old to be sticking food on people's doors. That was also the same year. We had that peanut butter and jelly I was talking about. It was like that striped goobers stuff in a can. Or in a bottle? Jar. That's the word. It was that striped goober stuff. So it was peanut butter and jelly in the same convenient can. I don't know, whatever. There's no easy way to say this. We thought it was funny to rub peanut butter and jelly all over ourselves. So like 2 of my friends, one of them, she was kind of like crazy in a fun way, like in a fun, safe way. She was crazy. We were like, hey, let's sit in the hall and rub peanut butter and jelly on ourselves. Because that would be funny. Which it was funny, like, and it's still funny, but kind of in like a, wow, why did we do that? That was so weird kind of way. So we were sitting in the hall, and they were like rubbing peanut butter and jelly on their face and their like feet and arms and legs. And then this guy gets off, or the elevator opens, because we did it in front of the elevator. Again, why we did it in front of the elevator, I have no idea. So like the elevator opened and it was full of people, and there was this one guy that got off the elevator. Like he took one step, he looked at them covered in peanut butter and jelly just sitting on the floor, and then he like shook his head and was like, nah, and then got back on the elevator and then just went up with all the rest of the people. We had wet towels everywhere. That was the year of the craft singles and the sub sandwich and the PB&J. And one of our friends was using body paint. It was gray body paint, and she mixed it with something that I guess wasn't really supposed to be mixed with. When she got in the shower later, it wouldn't come off, like, at all. And she was in the shower for like 2 hours, I kid you not. So long in the shower, and like we came in there and we're like, what's going on? Like, do you need help? And she's like, it's not coming off. And she like showed us her arm and stuff, and she was like trying to scrape it off, and it was so gross. It was like coming off in pieces. So like body paint, I don't know, I've never personally wore body paint, but I assume like most paints, you can kind of just like rub it off and it comes off the way you think paint would. But this was like having to be peeled off like glue. And I just did like a walkthrough of the room on the final day, and I just saw the piles of wet towels. The shower, the bath was just filled with like with paint flakes
everywhere.
And there was like, you know, like the sheets were not made because we slept in the beds and stuff, and it was just such a mess. So I left a very nice tip for the maid, because that was disgusting. Because we played Cuphead, Cosplay Cuphead, and so we had 3 big heads. There was like a staff and like some other props. I had my Lancer that I built from Gears of War, in addition to the armor, like the chest piece that goes on top. And so there was a lot of just really clunky stuff last year, in addition to like everybody having like a luggage bag and like two cosplay bins. It's just awful. Like, how do you transport stuff anymore? How do you do cosplay? I don't know. Crotch cam. Enhance. And then when I was noise, I had like the fangirls, like this one girl, ooh, story time, yay. I was eating pizza, right? And I know this picture is very distracting, but just listen to me. I was eating pizza, like in that one photo of me as noise, And I was like, oh, I'm full. I have 2 slices left. So I was carrying around the pizza, and this one girl asked for a picture, and she was like hyperventilating, freaking out, like, oh my god, it's noise. And so I was like, hey, do you want this pizza? And she was like, yes. And I already bit off of one of the pieces, and I was like, here, I'll throw this one away. I bit off of it, and she's like, no, I'll take it. And I was like, okay, great. And so I gave her the whole pizza, and she was very happy. And I did acrylic paint on my skin because I forgot my other paint, my body paint at home. It was this really shiny iridescent acrylic paint. And so it kind of shined purple in certain lighting, and the pictures don't do it justice, but it looked really cool. And it is acrylic paint. When I first put it on, I was like, yes, this is great. I put it on 3 layers so that it was extra vibrant. And maybe an hour into wearing it, it started peeling a little bit and getting dry. And then by the end of the night, it was just flaking off, and it looked fuzzy. You could do this and kind of wave it back and forth. It was really gross, very uncomfortable. It was itchy. So not doing that again if I don't have to. Scratching it off in the hotel room and leaving flakes all over the floor. It's kind of gross when I word it that way. But I was pretty, just believe me. We finished painting these, and we were laying them on the lawn to dry. And clear skies all night. Clear skies the day before. And then the next morning, it was probably 7 a.m. and we were kind of packing up, getting ready, and these were still out in the lawn drying. Well, I'm sure they were dry by then, but we were in my bedroom, and I have a metal patio covering right outside my window, and so I hear the of rain, and I'm like, is it raining? Or I was like, I think that's rain. And so we ran out. Never ran so fast in my life because I hate running. Dragged them in. We were dragging a soldier out of line of fire or something. Drag them underneath the porch. And we're like,
no! Blockbuster!
They were wet and soggy. And this is the picture right here. Just flimsy, falling apart. Soaking wet. It only rained for 5 minutes. I kid you not. It rained long enough to get these wet. We dragged them under the patio. It stopped raining 1 minute later, and it was sunny skies. Where'd the rain come from? It was stupid. And it ruined the cosplay, and we were like, okay, we just have to leave it. Just leave it here on the patio. We'll come get it after the con and put it away or throw it away or whatever. And so I never got to wear Blockbuster because it rained for 5 minutes for some unknown reason. Couldn't even predict the rain, so...